Can I start it off and be like, welcome to PolicyWise IRL? IRL.
Wait. I-R-L. Jesus.
What is your favorite high school dance?
Oh, I can't answer that.
Or like...
Winter formal.
Why is that your favorite?
Because my prom sucked.
Because I was a princess one year.
Were you really?
My freshman year was all downhill from there.
Wait, what's your favorite dance?
Homecoming.
Homecoming? What year?
My sophomore year.
Okay.
Why?
Because freshman year, I was still like a little baby.
Yeah.
Like new to it.
You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Didn't know what I was doing. Sophomore year, super fun. Then they started renovating the convention center. So we had to go to this like terrible motel.
Oh my gosh.
Like out in the suburbs, and it was like such a long line to get in, and there was like so packed, there was like sweat on the. It was like terrible.
Oh. We still had fun. I mean,
Yeah.
the year after. Right?
Yeah.
What about you?
Mine, junior year. Okay, so they only did this dance once at my high school. It was at Pharaoh's Lost Kingdom. Splash Kingdom. It's called Splash Kingdom
Was it like
now.
a water park?
Yeah, in
Oh.
Redlands.
Okay.
And so I don't know what was the impetus for having
Yeah.
this.
Was there a lot of like synchronized swimming?
It was a dance. At least probably 1,000 people.
Okay.
And it was all three high schools like coming together all years, like freshman through senior.
Wow.
It was a really big high school dance, and it was so much fun. I don't know, I feel like regular high school dances, like, you know a lot of the people there.
Yeah.
And it was like, you get to meet these people from other schools, and like...
Wow. What'd you wear?
I don't remember what I wore.
Come on.
Oh, come on
You
now.
know, I was
You know
a
what
junior
you
in high school. I
wore.
do not know what I wore. I'm so sorry.
It's your screensaver, Colin.
What's the screensaver?
It's a sim.
I literally have not changed it since I got my phone.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the stock one from now.
Mm.
Currently. It used to be me and my siblings. I should probably change it back. Sorry, sisters.
Can I change my answer for favorite dance?
Yeah.
We had barn dances at our school. Yeah.
We were just-
Line dancing?
Yes. And it was awesome. It was great.
That is great.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up again?
Arroyo Grande.
Welcome to PolicyWise. We are on season 3. We've been doing this for a while now. I'm Michael.
I'm Demi.
I'm Elli.
And we are in the YLA office in Fresno. Getting together and recording for the first time.
In person.
Yeah. And actually seeing each other for the first time in person. It's the first time Elli and I have met.
First time Demi and I have seen each other in years.
Yeah.
Since the student government days.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, making me feel old.
Reminiscing.
I just turned 23 and I need a walking stick now.
Speaking of not that. Speaking of back in the student government days, today we're going to be talking about politicians, and particularly talking about the pros and cons about certain types of politicians, things that we look for in our ideal politician. I want to ask if you can name some politicians who best represent your political favorite.
So I feel like each one, at least for me, each one is for like a different reason, a different purpose. The one that I think first sparked my political interest and made me like turn on the TV with the interest of politics was Barack Obama. Barack Obama was the politician of our generation. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that. I was like 8 years old when he was elected.
Okay, to be fair, I was 10. I was for sure in like fifth grade.
That's not how that.
It was 2000. No, it was 2008. I was born in 1998. I was 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was 6.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I was 6 then.
You're good. I must have also been 10 then.
Yeah. We didn't know what politics was. Like, you just
Yeah.
watch TV, and for me, it was just like that black guy that's coming on is saying some stuff that's making me feel some sort of way. Like, I don't even know what he's referring to, but I'm with it. That's also when I learned like the difference in ideologies, because it was like, oh, you might watch like MSNBC and like the commentators are really cheering this person. You switch it over to Fox and it's like, oh, they don't like him. And I did not understand why. So Barack Obama, I think, is the one that first like kind of set the standard for what a politician is. I do remember George Bush, but I wasn't invested. I wasn't invested the way I was, I think, into Obama.
You're like a 9-year-old, you're like, I just can't get with it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Ooh, well, my whole thing is like environmentalism.
Henry David Thoreau.
Who even is that?
The Prawn! Walden Prawn?
I was thinking the existentialist.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, yeah. I think.
Oops.
Not a politician.
Okay, fair enough.
Not a politician. You know, like AOC. We'll get into that later,
We'll get into
though.
that.
Yeah. Ed Markey has been big.
Ed Markey.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like Green New Deal. I mean,
Yeah.
like...
Senator Markey, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I just never thought of Senator Markey as notable, but I see
Well,
that.
he is in environmental stuff.
I can see that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Bernie.
Oh,
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Feel the burn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt the burn really hard in 2016.
Did you?
Yeah, really hard in 2016.
Yeah.
I was like, I
didn't
participated in a t-shirt making Feel the Burn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I actually saw him in person. Okay, fun fact. This is
Yeah.
my first political event in my life. It was senior year of high school. And it was literally, I think I saw like a tweet while I was bored in class saying that Bernie Sanders was coming to San Bernardino, which is like 20
Oh,
minutes away from my
wow.
high school. And so I was sitting there texting my friends, like, are we gonna go? Like, could we go?
Yeah.
We ended up going right after school to San Bernardino. And it was a super long line. Like, my first political event, people were passing out stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm about to see like a politician that's been on TV or whatever. We get like inside the venue and we're like in the crowd. A guy in a suit like walks up to us and is like, do y'all want to be on stage behind Bernie?
No way.
No way.
Yeah. And we were like, yeah, duh. Like we thought he was joking. And he literally led us to the backstage with like a bunch of other people. And I was on stage behind Bernie Sanders.
No
Oh my
way.
God.
Yeah, there's a little photo of me holding, I still have the sign that I was holding because they give us all signs to hold.
Yeah.
But he was like a good like 5 feet away from me. And
Whoa.
yeah,
Hillary Clinton
Wow.
came to Sac City College.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't get in,
That's okay.
but she was there.
Snoop Dogg worked at this concert that I was at. I used to work at this concert venue, and he was there, and I was like, from me to Elli, and I was like, I could tackle Snoop Dogg, and it was really inspirational.
I
And
can
Tackle Snoop
Dogg.
I didn't.
Oh, Snoop Dogg, my
I'm
favorite
glad.
politician.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's on the actually Mount Rushmore. You didn't see?
Mm.
Yeah, new edition.
I'm
Mount Rushmore 2.0.
Interesting. For your ideal politician, do you want someone who is able to like move the current script, or someone who's about to turn it all on its head? And I'll just like end the question there because and there's a lot of consequences to each. I personally feel, but I want to know your preference.
Turn it on its head.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle.
Mm.
I think like someone who's willing to turn the corner. Does that make sense? Like
the corner on the
inspirational.
script.
to like to do like a quick little swerve, like
Okay.
like a curve, because I and we can absolutely get into this, but I think
Yeah.
when it comes to like political change,
Yeah.
that sometimes the means or the end do not justify the means. And so it might be a good idea, like in the long run, to like flip it on its head.
Mm.
But how many people's lives would you be affecting in a negative way by
That's
flipping
true.
it on its head? Even though like you want that outcome, but that process might do a lot more damage than you might think. And so I think like having the end goal in sight, but then doing it in a smooth way.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this a lot too, and it's easier talking in the abstract, but being like, okay, is there a way that we can completely flip the situation around and then still be able to provide in the current system until we're able to get there? So say that someone's like, okay, I want to completely get rid of all fossil fuels. Is there a way that we can provide for the economic consequences of that in some way, while also making sure that we're progressing in that way? Like, do you think that that's a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, it's like transitioning to a clean energy system and like making sure people who are currently working in the fossil fuel industry get training to then become workers within the green energy system. So like that's what a transition like that would look like ideally. So like you're still supplying for all of those people who would be out of work normally if you just like completely shut down the fossil fuel industry without any replacement. So there is a transition there, but like it does take the initial mindset of like, no, we're like totally changing this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like you are still like flipping the whole script, but you are making sure that you're like reaching that end point in a way that's like still, like you said, meeting all the needs of the present and in that like transition.
Yeah.
So you can't boost up a green energy industry without like workers who can actually do that. And like those workers should be people who would be out of a job because they work in the oil industry.
Mm-hmm.
So like their money should be going there right now. Like we should be funding training. We should be in the process of transitioning right now. And that goes for many different industries, I'd say.
I'd agree with that. I think it's like you have to, I think the ideal option would be reskilling. Like, you know, pay for their 2 to 4 year education to reskill into a different industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, at least in some sort of way, you make a smoother transition and you're not putting a bunch of people in unemployment.
Totally. Yeah, totally. It needs to be equitable.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, do you think there's any argument for not reskilling, but just like paying people out and then reskilling incoming people so that no one has to go through the process of like getting reskilled?
Would they know that they would get a payout? Like, and I say that because there might be people wanting to push that industry further,
right?
Knowing that they would get paid if they were there.
Oh,
Not that that's.
I mean,
that wouldn't
as
be a
long
big
as they don't
chunk
listen to the podcast.
I don't know if I need to think about a payout a little bit.
Yeah, no,
more.
me too. Thanks for answering. I don't have an answer. Yeah.
Wait, let's go back to the AOC point.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we get back to this because there's been some controversy lately.
Yeah. Met Gala. We all saw the dress.
I think I've always just had like a really difficult time like idolizing anyone. And so even AOC, like as much as I think she is so wonderful for so many reasons, I can't even say that I've like followed her close enough to have a hard judgment. It's one of those things where I think it's really easy to criticize politicians. Like it's so much easier to criticize politicians than to be in a political position, definitely. And that's not to say that they shouldn't be critiqued. Like they obviously should be. And I think like this wasn't her best. It wasn't her best moment.
Right. Yeah.
But that being said, like I want to see how she goes from here. I'm not like, oh, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
No, I feel like it marks a really like interesting point in how we deal with politicians in terms of like how we view them.
Let me just preface and say that my belief is that the only perfect politician is you. You're never gonna agree with another human being 100%. That is just completely unrealistic, especially in the United States.
Wait, so pitch yourself.
Future governor.
You want me to build my opposition today, Demi?
In this moment.
No. I say that to say, like, you know, you might have someone that you agree with 95%, 98%, 99%. And there was a lot of people, I think, that agreed with AOC to the 99.9%. And then they saw that 0.01% moment and were like, oh. And it's like, yeah, like that's humanity.
Well, it's interesting because it wasn't even disagreeing with the message.
Yeah.
It was wasn't even disagreeing on like a political viewpoint. It was disagreeing on like the situation and the context and the way in which that message was presented.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like it's one thing to like believe and like present the idea of tax the rich, and it's another to like go and do that by putting it on a dress like at the Met Gala, like $35,000 entrance fee, you know, like bunch of celebrities like while there's protesters like being harassed outside, you know?
Every elected official like lands on a scale that is like they are on one side, they represent their community and they're doing a great job of that. On the other side, they're elected because they are very bold in what they ask for and what they do, and their community likes that. An example, for example, is Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Like Vermont's not a super liberal state at all, but he wins almost every election with so far, and because the community that he represents likes the way that he does whatever the heck he's gonna do no matter what. And like nobody's really gonna stop him from doing that. And that's something that people value. And I'd say something quite similar of Nancy Pelosi. Does she represent San Francisco? But is she good at what she does? And do people like vote for her because of that? So I think that there's the ebb and flow there, I guess.
I feel like it's into like a very like a deeper issue. Like I think my ideal politician at this moment would be someone who's gonna go in and fix the incentives. So like I don't really care what else they do at this moment. I just want them to fix the incentives of what makes someone a politician, and I want them to like restructure it and like get after those issues. So if someone was in there, like I would want like even if they got there and they used a bunch of donor money, but they went in and they fixed campaign finance issues. I mean, obviously like it's deeper than this. It's not that easy, but like someone who like really tackled that stuff head on, who maybe made it so that we had less people per district, because I also think that's a big problem with representation. Is like at the end of the day, you need career politicians in some level to be that dedicated to represent a massive district like that, because who could ever possibly do that as a part-time job when you're representing like thousands and thousands of people,
right?
Whereas like realistically, if you had someone like if you could treat that job as if you're treating it like another kind of like council that you're on or a board that you were on, because you know the community really well and you've been there and you've worked there your whole life and like you understand it, and you didn't have to spend that much time doing it, but you know the people so well because you're not representing that many people, and you've also just like lived it, then I think they would do a much better job than what we currently have going on.
Mm.
So like at this point, like clearly what I'm after is like a policy change, but I think it speaks to the idea that like whoever any of our perfect politicians are going to be, I think it's going to be really dependent on when this person's going to be elected. So I don't know how y'all feel, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah, it's hard because like you want someone who's going to be dedicated and like can build up that experience like in a job, but then you also have so many people in our government who have had that job for so many years, and then they've like aged out. I feel like you're no longer like in tune with the majority of people in my mind, you know. Maybe I'm just saying that because I'm like young and I'm just surrounded by a bunch of other young people, but like I don't think there's very many people in our government who are like adequately representing my viewpoint and like what I want to see and like what a lot of other young people want to see.
Right.
So it's sort of like, how do we do that where like people can have like the experience that they need and like be able to like actually build themselves like into government, you know, like secure themselves in that position while still making sure that we have people who like are aging with the with the correct population, if that makes sense. I feel like I didn't phrase that right, but
I think where the system is broken here, because what is supposed to happen is that when the person is no longer representing the community, they get voted out.
Yeah, right.
That is what is supposed to occur. But because of the way that things work nowadays, it's like once you've been in your job long enough, like you have a hold on all the donors, you have a hold on all the media, you have a hold on all of these things that come into the electability portion. Because of the way that our elections are structured, we don't have a vacation day for voting.
No, it's true.
And so
there is like a lot of discussion about kind of like the systemic changes need to happen in order to like redo this. And there was this thing that they did at my last university amongst one of the departments where they were
Which university was that?
I was at the London School of Economics. But go Dogs, Fresno State. No, I'm just kidding. They were both good. But yeah, so like they did something in, it was my roommate's apartment. She was in like the development department, and they were like, look, we need student representatives. All of y'all are qualified enough to be here. And so instead of it being a popularity contest and like duking it out, we're just going to like randomly select some of you. And like, that was it. And it was like a really big moment for me where I was like, oh no, oh wait, yeah? Like, is that a good idea? Like, I can't really decide like what's good and not what's not. And the idea was that they would like cycle out, and so you'd have like everyone doing it at some point. I mean, obviously you can't cycle out like everyone in the United States, but I do think it's like an interesting conversation of being like, should there be like a minimum qualification which gets you in some kind of like raffle, or
but then who's defining those qualifications?
It is interesting, and like obviously I think that would be up to the voters. So say we're doing like state by state or like local government, the voters would put on maybe like a proposition of like what that might look like and who needs to be qualified for that position. They would vote for those qualifications, and then someone is selected at random who has those qualifications. I mean, there's so many issues, and like that's not gonna like work as well as it will in like a 30-person seminar, but I just think it's interesting to like rethink these ideas. And there's also this thing called like ranked voting now.
Yeah, there is.
Y'all know better than I do, so take it.
I don't know, but I know of it.
Yeah, which I do think is like an interesting idea and something that we should consider. There's also ideas of, you know, if you're in a certain occupation, like you're a teacher, then your vote counts twice as much on a proposition that has to do with the education system than someone else, and stuff like that. So I think it's worth considering more than we have. But that's pretty much all I can say on it as of now.
We've been missing Mehek this episode.
We have empty seat.
Empty seat.
Speaking at seats at the table. There's an empty seat at the table.
Yeah, we're not eating her though.
Here.
Oh.
She's not on the menu. She's at home. She's not on the menu.
She could not make it with us to Fresno.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
We love you.
We love you. Next round table.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts. I feel like we're gonna have to do another one of these.
Oh, and send in your questions that you would like us to talk about on the
absolutely.
topic. Welcome to our first round table discussion.
IRL.
IR.
L. Did I even do that the right direction?
I think you went the right. I don't know.
I don't know which one is correct. I don't know my left from my
I was pointing out
right.
from the heck. It's the start of season 3.
Welcome to season 3 of PolicyWise.
1, 2.
2. Demi, what are you doing? Oh, Demi.
Bye.
This was PolicyWise, an intergenerational podcast by Youth Leadership Institute focused on bringing young people into the policy conversation. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at PolicyWise Pod. If you have any questions or suggestions for discussion topics, please email us at policywise@yli.org. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes.